Good evening, good evening, good evening. We're going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. Our Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board for Wednesday, October the 4th, 2023, 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. And so I'll begin with roll call. Aniskevich?
Here.
Gippin?
Here.
Peoples? Here. Lewis?
Here.
Castle?
Here.
Richards?
Here.
Reed?
Here.
Mr. Costa will be absent on this evening. Boyd is here. And I'd like to make a motion for the approval of last meeting's minutes.
So move.
Got a second? Aniskevich?
Yes.
Gippin?
Yes.
Peoples? Yes. Lewis?
Yes.
Castle?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Boyd, yes.
Mr. Chairman, before we go to public comments, I wonder if I might extend to you personally my apology. 2 weeks ago when I was speaking in support of the rules legislation resolution and you asked me to stop speaking, I misinterpreted what you were asking me. I should have understood better, and I believe I overreacted, and I'd like to extend you my apology for that.
Mr. Gippin, I really appreciate it, and let me extend it back to you. I probably should have been more clear what I said. I was really abrupt, and so for that I apologize. The one thing that we don't want to do and what we want to attempt to model, and I think, Mr. Gippin, you have done that, and we're doing it now, is just that, hey, we want to be cordial with one another. We don't want to be hostile. And so I should have been more clear in my approach to that. So, Mr. Gippin, I really appreciate that. And also, I appreciate all of our board members. So thank you so very much, Mr. Gippin. Appreciate it. This time, we're going to move forward into our public comment. Our public comments will be 30 minutes in total, with 3 minutes per person that has a comment. And we also want to just say, if you can please keep your public comments focused on some of the challenges that you want to speak about and not necessarily demeaning or diminishing the work of this board or anybody personally on the board, would be appreciated. Ms. Aniskevich? All right. Okay, so we'll move on, and I don't see Mr. Fields here for his report out. Okay, we'll move on to our subcommittee report out. First up will be Mr. Gippin and governance. Okay, yep. Right on time, Mr. Fields, you are up for your report. Good evening.
Number of calls received were 8 in total. 5 of them were follow-up calls from complainants. The other 3 calls were complaint-related. One of those calls did result in a complaint being filed. The number of emails received were 34. Number of in-person complaints received, 0. And as the board's aware, there's no office space assigned at this time. Complaints turned over to APD since last meeting. There's been 1. This was an excessive force complaint. Complainant states he was stomped in his lower extremities after a brief vehicle chase. Complainant required hospitalization. Not hospitalization, but hospital treatment. Investigations into police misconduct from prior weeks, there's been none. Investigations completed and summaries of finding. I reviewed 5 unfounded determinations and 8 use of force investigations. All APD procedures regarding investigations appear to have been followed. Complaints taken over from other persons this week, last 2 weeks, have been none. Reviews conducted, none. Concerning patterns, areas for improvement identified, there were none. Community outreach and events, I have spoke with Pastor Stacy Jenkins regarding doing some possible church visits on Sundays to introduce myself as the auditor to the community. I've received some positive feedback on that, and I'll be speaking with Pastor Jenkins sometime soon. Recommendations for changes of policies, procedures, there have been none at this point.
I do. Mr. Fields, if I heard you right, you said were there 8 reports of closed investigations which you received?
Yes.
And you have the documentation for all that?
Yes.
So we probably need to discuss in some fashion, but if any or all of us want to see that documentation, you have it?
Oh, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Fields? Anybody from the board? All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fields, for your report out.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fields.
All right. Now we're going to move down to our subcommittee report out, and first is Mr. Gippen and governance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With Mr. Costa absent, there'll be no motion to remove the rules legislation from the table tonight, so it will stay there. We spent most of the meeting a week ago, I think very usefully. It was Katie and me, but also joined by Pastor Penfield, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting, yes, who and as is we found in committees very usefully, I mean, was fully participated. And we were resuming our discussion of the process for, looking at the issues we want to look at more closely for our report next year. In general, I think it was a very useful discussion, but Pastor Penfield, I think it was your suggestion that we look as a topic, as one of the topics we focus on, at the police department's processes for data collection and transmission. What they're collecting, what they're doing with it, what they're making available, that whole large body of information that we've, I think, several times talked about being necessary for most of our work. By the time we were talking about that, essentially the HR committee had shown up, so we had, the benefit of additional people talking about that, and I think everybody felt it was a good idea. I think the question that sort of was left unresolved was whether that should substitute for one of the other topics so that we would still keep to 5 areas of focus as opposed to trying to push to 6. But it was a great suggestion, and I think my guess is we'll want to do that. The only question is whether that will replace the topic or not. I suppose I know that kind of is going by quickly, but if folks have thoughts about it, particularly the others who were there, be a good time to talk about it.
I thought just to kind of piggyback, I thought it was a really great conversation and lots of insight. Again, we appreciate the involvement of Ms. Penfield and Ms. Holden with that conversation. We did take a look at some of the data that is available from APD at this time and kind of dug into that, and we kind of discussed what other data points we would be interested in collecting and how we could potentially look at that through the lens of the board. So I think there's some more discussion as follow-up and some more questions to be answered, but I do think it was a great dialogue and a really beneficial conversation to keep the work moving forward.
Mr. Gibbon, the first thing you said was we wasn't taking what off, I'm sorry. You said the very first thing you said was we weren't taking the,
I'm not making any motion to bring the rules.
Okay.
The rules legislation back up tonight since Mr. Costa isn't here.
Okay.
I think we've felt these weeks that everybody needs to be here.
Absolutely.
I don't know that even needs to be in the minutes. It's sort of the absence of action.
Okay.
That I thought I would explain. We'll be resuming our discussion of the report procedures at the meeting next week. And it may be that we need to begin looking at some of the procedures that we know are going to be in the rules in whatever form they're in, so we can begin fleshing that out a little bit more.
Okay.
Apart from that, no further report.
All right. You might have any questions for Governance and Mr. Gippen or any one of the,
I do. You had responded to a student, Mr. Gippen. Can you, I don't know if she responded back. Can you
Yeah,
elaborate on that?
Yeah. I think we all got a copy of an inquiry from a Ms. Fetters, I want to say, who's a law student at the law school, looking for information about the Akron Police Department for a report or study that she and I guess some others in her group in the one class are doing, which we don't have the information, and you had responded to her, but we've been talking about getting assistance from the law school. In fact, if they are actually having class next Monday, either Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples' Day, I think the plan is that at least Brandon and I will be there at 1:30 to meet with that class with Professor Lee. But in any event, I responded to Ms. Fetters and said, hey, we could use some help. And she did actually respond to me today and offered help. So I forwarded that to Brandon to get his thoughts. But I think that's, regardless of what else we do, she seems very interested in working on things that would be both good for her and useful to us. So no, we did connect. We did.
Will any of the things she's looking for require a FOIA, Freedom of Information? Do you know?
I don't
what she
know.
said?
We didn't look that.
Okay.
That wasn't what she was asking, but we know we need help, and if she's one who stepped up. I think from the message today, I think she in fact is in that group that's working with Professor Lee.
Okay.
But
The
she
only
had her
reason why I
own-
asked is because her original email was to the auditor.
Oh,
Her original email was to the auditor, and she kept emailing Mr. Young, and I emailed her back and said that he has been on an extended medical leave. So that's why I brought that up.
yeah. If it turns out that she does need information that we have access to, we're certainly going to assist her. But yes, the contact got made, the connection got made.
Okay.
right, any more questions for Mr. Gippen or Governance? All right, if not, thank you, Mr. Gippen. Next will be Human Resources, Ms. Richards.
Thank you. We have the job posting ready to be posted, and it will run through October 31st. So we hope to get some great candidates out of that. The only other update is Ms. Foltz, our administrative assistant, was supposed to start on the 2nd, and she has postponed that start until the 10th, which probably isn't all that bad since we don't have any office space for her until probably October 31st. So we, in our HR subcommittee, we created a schedule, if you will, for what she could do this first month that she's employed with us. So hopefully get her the education that she needs to hit the ground running, because we're going to want her to. So that's it.
Ms.
Can
Richards?
you say what the job posting is for, just for people listening?
For the auditor.
Ms. Richards, as you know, I just transmitted the draft
Yes.
just now, and had a little conversation. I think either or both Ms. Atkins or Ms. Doty might want to add to what you just said about what's going to happen with the posting.
Well, hold on one second before you get to that. When she does start, there was a question about if she would be able to spend any time with Mr. Fields in his office. Was that question ever answered?
Yes, it was. The question was if Mr. Fields, we don't want her driving during the day, but if she could take a day and meet him at his office, if he had space for her to do that for a day or two, then that would be acceptable.
You mean like an overtime day?
No, just like a regular work day,
Okay.
like a Tuesday.
And
Or
that
whatever
would
day
be
work.
that would be her day,
That
her
would be
work
her
day at his office?
To show
Okay.
up at his office
Okay.
and meet with him, so.
Okay, and you were aware of that?
No, I wasn't.
Well, once she didn't start, we're kind of back to square one again, so.
Just a couple questions. First of all, we really appreciate you, Yamini, and Stacy for giving us so much support in this process of hiring and scouting talent. in reference to Ms. Fultz, when she starts her position, it'd be ideal just for me, and I think for the rest of the HR subcommittee, do you guys actually have like an itinerary where we could see what she's doing day to day, so then we can kind of determine how we can kind of fill in some of those gaps?
Well, I don't have an itinerary. What she would be doing day to day would be up to you, but our plan was for her to sit over with the prosecutor's office, their administrative assistant, and kind of learn our processes for how you order supplies, who to call if you need something fixed, how you get things done in the city. There's a lot of stuff to learn in our workday system for navigating purchasing, if you are doing any travels or have reimbursements, those type of things. So that's the part that we're going to help with. As far as everything else that she's doing, what you want her to learn, if you have some things that you want her to do, is there someone that she should call if she has questions, or?
I think that's what Ms. Reed is saying. So, and I think we're gonna have her spend some time with the finance director. So if we could get days and times on when you had planned to have her do that, that's what we need, the days and the times that she's going to be having those meetings with the prosecutor and the finance department.
So her first day will be Tuesday, so she'll probably be with the prosecutor's office all that day. And she can do that whenever she's not doing something that you need her to do for a while, because it'll take her some time to get up to speed on all the systems. And then whenever she has time in her schedule, she'll sit with the finance director's administrative assistant. And
So that's the caveat. We don't have anything laid out for her because we're not certain exactly what she's doing with you guys. So we're kind of looking to see, and again, we can't thank you enough for offering us so much support. But what we're kind of looking for is, we kind of made some requests on different things we would like her to learn from various aspects of people that work in the city, like sitting with the prosecutor, learning from the finance department, maybe talking with the legal department. Are we scheduling that? Did you guys want to schedule that? And then if you guys are willing to assist with that, can we just get like an itinerary of what day she's doing what, so then we can kind of plan around her obligations to learning things from the city?
I can give you maybe the first few days, but she's going to have a workstation on the 6th floor where she'll be doing whatever you need her to do, but I don't know everything she needs to learn, and I can't give you a timeline. I'm just trying to keep her busy until you know what it is she needs to learn.
Isn't she supposed to be meeting with Mr. Fields? And I thought she was assisting with, any of his reports.
Right, but the last email we had gotten from Stacy, she had given us a list of things that, onboarding, that she had to do. So, and ideally, what we would like to do after you're finished with your onboarding with her, then we do our onboarding the same way we did with Mr. Fields. So if we had some idea on the days and times that she's going to be doing your onboarding, then that would be more efficient for us.
Yeah, and even knowing what that onboarding like consists of, because I imagine for her position, it looks different than Mr. Fields maybe, but maybe it doesn't. So we're just kind of, blindly trying to get an understanding of what onboarding means, but we just want to know what she's learning, what she's doing, so then if there's areas that we really want to hyper-focus on, we can say, okay, she learned this day, so maybe we can send her back to, let's say, finance and kind of have her hone up on how to do P cards or something like that.
Well, she could probably stay at the prosecutor's office for the first week. Monday's a holiday, so she would start on Tuesday. But I'm just trying to fill her time for you until we know if you have tasks for her to do. It's helpful learning to actually do the tasks that she's supposed to be doing.
I mean, the role is clerical support for this.
Right, does she not need to be acquainted with the computer system and
Right.
payroll and all that kind of stuff, and what kind of
Like
timeframe is that?
Workday, I mean, you guys gonna train her on Workday, or?
It's difficult to do a whole lot of training if she doesn't have the work to do. So I don't have work for her.
But just to understand how to use the systems, that's the type of things we'll be showing her. These are the systems that are in the city that you have to familiarize.
Right.
Right,
Those are the type of things that she will be given some, training and understanding of how those systems operate.
And that's what we're trying to find out, how long that takes and what days you may be doing that.
Just separate out, like, any type of work tasks are gonna come from you. So that goes to, like, operational things you may need her to do, like prepare a report that, that Mr. Fields presents some data for her to input or something.
yeah, we understand that.
Separate that out.
Yeah, we understand that, and that's gonna be our onboarding of her. But we need to be able to work around what you guys have to do, based on the email that you had sent last week.
I can't tell you how long it'll take for her to learn those things because I don't know that part of the system. And it depends on how, if she has things to catch up on that weren't being done, or ordering things, if there are things that you need to have done, it would be helpful while she's learning to have.
No,
We
we're
don't
looking at
know.
we're looking at a person that's coming in with a blank slate. We haven't assigned her any task. So just imagine this is a person who's new to a role that has not existed on the board. So we'll create those tasks later. So she's coming in fresh. We don't have anything assigned for her right now. How long do you think it would take for her to just do you guys' onboarding without any reference or relevance to what the board needs her to do?
Well, the onboarding is really very short. It would just be normally for us in HR, we just spend an hour or two with them, and that's it. So the other tasks, we need to know what she needs to do so that we know what to teach her to do.
So with the when she meets with the prosecutor's office, is that all day, you said?
Yes, as long as they're happy to have her and they have some things that they can show her.
And then the finance department, how long does that take? Is that an all-day thing also?
I really don't know.
Okay.
And no worries, I know this was kind of off the cuff. So what we'll do is we'll just communicate via email, and then maybe we'll kind of get the prosecutor's office in the loop, and then maybe they can just kind of give us an itinerary on what her first couple of days could look like, because I get it, this is new to everybody, so.
And depending on what someone's duties are, that's what they need to learn. And that's why I can't really answer your question.
Chicken and the egg.
Yeah, I mean, we're more than happy to slot her in with Mr. Fields, but we don't want to interfere with whatever you guys have scheduled for the prosecutor's office.
Trying to
I
keep her
think.
busy until she has direction.
Well, keeping her busy and having her learn what she needs to learn is kind of two different things to me. But
So, Ms. Richards, do we have, from an HR perspective, do we have a list of just rough draft responsibilities for her?
We have her job description that
Okay.
has rough draft responsibilities, the Cody's position that he did before. I'm not sure we want to utilize her in the same manner, or if there's other things that we want to do. Again, we're gonna kind of feel this out as we go.
Yeah.
But for Stacy to say she needs to learn X, Y, Z, we don't have anything beyond that initial job
Yeah.
description.
So, when's our next HR?
I am off next week.
Okay.
So if the rest of the subcommittee would like to meet, they're welcome to, but I will be out of state and out of communication.
Good for you.
And
And so-
Mr. Chair, we
and
did
so-
talk about this last week at our subcommittee meeting about us meeting next week to create a more formal plan on things we'd like to do. I have filled it out to the board to get back to me if there is some things that you guys feel would be more pertinent for her to do or things you absolutely need assistance with. I sent that about a month and a half ago, maybe almost 2 months ago. So if you think of anything, fine, but I'm more than prepared to provide specific duties for our admin 3 for our board, but she's also a city employee,
Exactly.
essentially, where she's serving our board, but then the onboarding process and all of those things that we would have any admin 3 do on any other board that's affiliated with the city, we wanted to make sure that she was engaged in learning the responsibilities of the role of an admin 3 before we specify it to the board's needs.
Yeah, and I think I hear Ms. Doty saying that they're gonna do that. I think, and I would love to talk about this offline, because I'm thinking about a whole bunch of things I know she can do. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Because I think her hours are, she's gonna be at all of our subcommittee meetings, correct?
No, she doesn't have to.
But I think she should, though.
Well, but see, these are things, again, we're all learning here. We are not HR professionals.
No,
So we don't, this is,
but it said, Ms. Sanders, I don't think this is about being an HR professional. I think it's about, we're building out a staff, and we have, what I hear is the autonomy or the independence to form our staff to meet the needs that we have as a board. And so I think it would be beneficial for the admin to be at the subcommittee meetings from a note-taking perspective, but also I think as Reverend Penfield has been to some of our, I would say our subcommittee meetings, I think giving feedback and almost, maybe it's a collecting or data collection of information of some of those community members who are coming, like their emails, contact information, and then we're able to send them just information, whether it's the notes from the meeting or just, hey, thank you for coming. Those type of things would be beneficial as we have her come to some of these subcommittee meetings. But I also think there's other things that we can do just from a customer service, if you will, perspective by having someone in that role. But I mean, again, we don't have to get into the deep weeds about it tonight, but I think there's opportunities here that we can utilize this a little bit more than what.
So,
and the fact that she's gonna be also a city employee, we have to think about, will she be requiring to be paid overtime for those meetings that she comes to in the evening? Those are the little intricacies that we are gonna have to work out. And that's what I'm saying about, having knowledge of what human resources would require of us to have. I mean, would she have to do that?
Yeah, but I think if we set up her schedule, that's kind of us being able to set that up. So if we know the structure of our subcommittee meetings, we can let her know in advance, like, hey, we're going to expect you in these spaces. And so it might be a later start for her in order for her to be able to come to those meetings.
Right, so instead of her working 8 to 4, for example.
Was that the time that we told her? Or did we leave that open?
she understands that there will be some flexibility based on her attending meetings. But I think, again, I think that's a conversation that should be had offline. I think it's also important to realize that though she's accessible to the board, she directly reports to our auditor. And
Yes.
because of that, I think I think we need to be trepidatious in setting a large schedule for her early on until we understand and are accommodating of what the auditor would want from her, specifically on a long-term basis. So I'd rather not kind of set something in stone early on, but I think it's a conversation, again, if there's any ideas, suggestions on what she should be doing, the HR committee is more than welcome to take consideration of that, but I think the discussion on exactly what her expectations are, what she's going to be doing and when she's going to be doing it, I think we need to be cautious in trying to carve out her entire schedule right now.
Because her first and foremost responsibility is to the auditor.
Yeah, and the auditor's first and foremost responsibility is to this board. So all this department, right? We're hiring.
That's understood, but
Can I just finish? This department, we're responsible for hiring the people in the department. Am I correct in saying that? And so we have to determine something, because right now, we may not have an auditor until 2 or 3 months. So we have to put some type of a loosely fitted box in place. And so again, I apologize, Ms. Reed. I don't want to get into the deep weeds. I want to continue.
No, I think your points are well made.
I want to continue the conversation, but maybe it's,
I think it's too early for us to, I think your points are well made, and I think we need to create ideas for what we like her to do, but then setting it in stone will be a little later, that's all. That's all I'm requesting. And again, our charter does a lot for her to report to the auditor.
Exactly, and
But it doesn't mean that she's not accessible to the board. And we'll kind of get into the weeds of that in our HR subcommittee and governance, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But your ideas are well heard, and I agree, there's a lot that we could have her doing, but I don't think it's appropriate to kind of, lay that all out right now. But let's have that conversation, though.
Okay, thank you.
I would just like to add that the posting will probably not go up tomorrow. We have just to review what changes were requested and make sure it's legal and conforms with what our job postings are supposed to look like.
All right. Anything else from HR, Ms. Richards?
Can I just ask, is the committee going to meet then next week, or? Okay, so we'll follow the same schedule, governance, HR, that seems to have worked well.
I'd love to invite the entire board to come out, because that hopefully will be the first time we can meet Ms. Foltz, if anyone wants to come out to our HR, sorry, Bev, but Bev already met her. So if anyone wants to come out and meet her, and then we can kind of get into the weeds of some of the discussion that we had early on. She hopefully will be here next Wednesday.
I didn't reserve the library for next week, so someone will have to reach out and do that.
is it room 1 still?
Whatever room they have available.
Well, that schedule of governance 4:45, HR at 6 seems to have worked well these last few weeks we've done it. And we've had the benefit of combined membership at the 2 meetings for some of it. So, I'll put out the governance notice for 4:45. I don't have the template for the HR, but either I can do that, Katie, or if you want to do it again, for 6 for them. And I will call the library tomorrow to reserve the room.
So, okay.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Richards and HR Subcommittee. Now we're going to lean into Ms. Lewis and Community Engagement Subcommittee.
So, no subcommittee meeting was held last week in lieu of 2 networking and informational events that took place on this past weekend. The first was the Summit County Prosecutor's Office hosted an 8th annual Responding to the Needs of Victims Conference. And the speakers were Paul Backman and Jennifer Spears. And Paul founded what's called the Cold Case Foundation. He formed this foundation after his father was tragically killed in a robbery, and he shared his 25 plus years experience in that area. And then there was Jennifer Spears, and she is an investigator for the Florida Police Department, and she shared about victims and how we should think in terms of treating them and how they investigate crime scenes. And so it was really good in the sense that it was relevant when we were talking about investigation for us and how investigation goes, and the things that to look for, and how to treat persons who have been assaulted and been victims. And the second event was the NAACP sponsored a 2-day community discussion on education that focused on 3 topics of discussion and were held at 3 different locations simultaneously. The first was held at House 330, and the topic was the role of the educator, and the guest speaker was Kurt Russell. And if you don't know, Kurt Russell was Teacher of the Year recipient. And then the second one was Who is Responsible for Education, and that was held at First Congregational Church. And then finally, the third, The Purpose of Education, and that was held at East Akron Neighborhood Development Corp. So both of those were informative and helpful. There's an event going on this weekend that's sponsored by the Sheriff's Department entitled Faith and Blue, and that will be at Hardesty Park. That's this Saturday, October the 7th, from 11 to 2. And that's all I have.
Also, Ms. Lewis, there is the Yours, Mine, Akron Community Civic Organization meeting on October the 12th. It's next Thursday from 6 to 8. They invite us to come. Dinner will be, I think, starting at, I believe, 6. And then they would want us to be on a panel just to talk about this experience. I believe I sent that to everybody with, I think there was 3 questions associated. And so they just want to give us platform to speak about the Oversight Board and just our experience and kind of where we are. So I know I sent out an email to everybody and we talked about it at our last meeting. So I told them we were appreciative of the invite and just being able to share what we're doing, but also help to educate. So
Are we supposed to individually RSVP to them? It's my grandson's birthday. I won't be there.
oh no, don't worry. I mean, if you can't make it, that's fine. It's over at Robinson CLC on the east side. Yep.
And that's open, so for those of you who are community engagement ex officio members or just on the general board, you're welcome to come to any of those.
Any questions for Ms. Lewis? All right. Thank you, Ms. Lewis, for your report out. Next will be new business, and it'd be item A under new business is web page proposals.
So I emailed out to board members, you should have received 2 different proposals that we received for web pages. The first one is Miss Lewis collected for us, and that was through, I apologize, I'm trying to pull it up here real quick. That was through Market Me, 24/7. So they did provide us information here as far as the timeline, what they could provide us for web page design and the different supports that were offered. So I just want to make sure everybody had that so you guys could take some time to review. I did previously share these with Mr. Costa so he could do a cost analysis to see which of the 2 or if both of them would be feasible so we can select from the 2. Looking at Market and Me, it was estimated a little bit over $20,000, I believe. So there was a significant cost associated with that option, and it breaks it down the different options and the different payment scales. We would be looking at a launch date between, it looks like the end of July or through October. But I apologize, those are from when we received it earlier, so it'd be a little bit later. And then the other proposal that we received was from Triad. Looking at that proposal, it was estimated at about $7,000 for the highest end. They gave us 3 different tiered approaches for the webpage design, and then based upon board feedback, they do have a subscription option where they would provide us with professional development, any type of training that an admin would need or board members or any of our OIPA staff would need, as well as they would offer some technical support and help us with updating that page as needed, and that annual cost was $1,500. So as of right now, those were the 2 different proposals that we received. I did want to give everybody a chance to look at those, so I'm not going to move anything. I also want to hear back from Mr. Costa based upon that cost analysis so that we can make an informed decision. But I did just want to mention those 2 offers and provide a space for any questions or comments.
Do you have any examples of their work? Can you, or the both of you, provide some links so we can see some of their, and sorry if it's already included, I did not read my email today.
Yes, so if you go down in both of the proposals, they are wonderful proposals. They're quite a few pages, but if you go down, they provide some examples. I don't believe they're linked, but you'll be able to just Google them straight from there and access those pages. So both of them have worked with different organizations and entities within Akron and outside of Akron. So they both were reputable, and they do have examples of their work there as well.
Is that $20,000 a one-time cost, or is that a year?
So that one, I believe, and I will need to triple check, but I believe that was a one-time cost. And then that would give us the rights to that web page as well moving forward. So we would have the license for that page.
And all the IT that goes along with it if we have problems? Is all that included in the price?
So that one, it appears, did not offer the same support services that the second proposal did.
I believe that that quote may have included some additional work, including flyers. May want to check that again.
That's.
The triad, does that include, now that, the triad includes like updating the website in that cost, but it doesn't include us owning it?
So I will need to ask that question because I didn't see that explicitly in there. They did provide the different platforms that they would use to create that, so that would be a great follow-up question that I can inquire about. I know in the Market and Me, they did explicitly state that in their proposal. But the one thing with Triad, I know that we would have the capability for us to update that page, as well as if we didn't feel comfortable, they would be able to do that through that subscription support.
Did they say, does either one of them indicate what platform they use to create the websites?
In Triad, they did. I can pull that up. I'm not quite sure in Market and Me if they did indicate which one they did. I'm perusing through that again.
Okay.
With Triad, they proposed a few different ones, and it was kind of contingent on which of the 3 tiers we wanted to utilize. So looking at Triad, they were looking at Drupal was the one that was recommended as one of their options. And then they also talk about Basecamp, Ring Central, and Trello. I'm not really familiar with those, but these are some additional extensions that could be a component of our webpage. And to Ms. Anaskevich's point, in regards to Zoom, they also have that capability through this webpage that they propose with Triad.
20,000 just seems really steep to me. I know GoDaddy is not even that expensive per year.
But again, if you read through the proposal, that was for additional marketing as well. So I think we need to take a look at that all individually and maybe come back to the table to discuss what our needs are as a board as far as marketing. So Triad was just with the webpage, and Market Me 24/7 was with some additional marketing components.
Okay.
It wasn't just the webpage.
Okay, and exactly what would they market? I mean, how would they market our board?
I was not a part of that conversation, so Ms. Lewis facilitated that conversation, so I'm not sure if she could answer that question.
Haven't talked with him. That's what you're referring to is an old quote, correct? That first one?
This is the
So
quote
you-
that you provided with Market Me 24/7,
Right,
yes, ma'am.
which was 3 months ago. Okay, so you haven't talked with him recently to get a quote?
No,
is
ma'am,
that
I'm
right?
just sharing the
Okay.
proposal that you had shared with us.
So what would they market for us that would justify 20 grand? That's a lot of money. I mean, there's all kinds of web page developers that are much more price efficient. So I'm just wondering, what would they market and how would they market us, and would we be expected to give them the information to market for us? Because right now, we've only been seated since April. I'm not sure how much we have to market right now for that amount of money.
It sounds like the proposal is something that was drafted, Ms. Lewis, you said like 3 months ago?
Along with 2 other additional services that he was going to provide. That's why I don't know, because if no conversation took place thereafter, I can't speak on that. The only thing I can share with you is that, number 1, the website and its creation, and then a flyer along with the 2-sided card was included in that quote. So I don't know, there wasn't a conversation thereafter. So I think we probably should have an additional conversation before we, present that as a go-ahead. And then a third one probably would be a good idea too. That's all I have. And if you probably, and I know that she sent it, so did you get a chance to read the proposal?
I'm looking at it.
Okay, you didn't get a chance to read it beforehand,
But,
correct?
yeah, but I guess what I'm just saying, they're like young people in the community who are graphic artists and all that kind of stuff who.
Well, we might want to recommend those young people you're talking about.
Right,
Caitlin.
well, that's what I'm trying to say, if you let me
Okay,
finish my
yeah.
point. Who we could probably, we probably need to explore some of these young people, rather $20,000, I'm sorry, that's just too steep.
Well,
when-
we're not, I'm sorry, we're not voting on anything.
I know we're
These
not,
are just
but that's
options.
just my
So,
opinion.
so if we could, Ms. Lewis, are you okay with following back up with
Wait,
who established the relationship that reached out to him? Was,
When we talked about the website, if you remember correctly, 3 months ago, Brandon and Caitlin were going to see about creating themselves a website and/or soliciting some kind of service. And so I simply forwarded them to persons that I knew of, and I can't remember the other provider, and I moved back from it because they were taking it. So it was a suggestion. And at the time, it was a suggestion that included some additional work, so I want to make sure that's clear. And from that point on, I had no follow-up conversation with him, and I guess Brandon or Ms. Castle didn't either, so that's where I stand with it. I don't know.
so who was the initial touch point with Market and Me? That's my question, Ms. Lewis.
That's what I just said.
So,
And then when I presented the information to the board, if you remember correctly, there was a long discussion about website design and security and that kind of thing, and they were gonna look into it. And so I just suggested thereafter, if you're interested in looking into it, here are two persons to think in terms of.
so for clarity, Caitlin, did you ever reach out to Market and Me after that board meeting, or once that information was forwarded to
no.
you?
No, there was an email exchange between Mr. Costa, Ms. Lewis, and myself, and I was under the assumption that that would be something we would be following up in community engagement in regards with the external page, but at this time, that is not something that's going to be housing community engagement. So I have reached out to other marketing and design, webpage design firms to get those quotes. So these are the two that we had, the one that Ms. Lewis provided, and I wanted to wait till we heard back from some of the other. So I was the one who was the touch point with Triad and had that meeting with them.
Okay, so community engagement is no longer over the website design?
No, let me clarify. I had brought it to the entire board, the importance of us having a website, along with making sure, to me, and this was just my opinion, that we needed to also think in terms of going across all social media, because the glitch was so many persons weren't getting information, and I think the information that we could provide would be helpful with regard to the process and with regard to what we are doing with human resources, with governance. And so it's just a informational, all-in-one, one-stop shopping. And so we talked about that, and it was decided, along with the cards, if you remember correctly, business cards, and we just hit a stalemate. And so, to me, that's a part of marketing and public relations that may not have to do with any subcommittee per se, but just across the board, the entire board needs to think about how do we get information, how do we simply disseminate information. And so, to me, that was, once again, a one-stop shop kind of thing. And so it wasn't under my umbrella per se. I brought it to the board to think in terms of all of us having that option. And so I also said that, if you remember correctly, that the administrative assistant, whoever that would be, they would take notes and whatever else we need for them to do when we meet on Wednesday, but then also it would be a part of their responsibility if we had a dashboard for them to update things on the website along with social media. I just think it's just another piece.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
What Ms. Castle said prompted me. At the last community engagement meeting when this came up, it was decided that the website project would be shifted into governance, if only because Ms. Castle and Mr. Costa are both on that committee. So, I mean, we'll treat that topic as being within the governance committee, and I suppose I'll leave it to Ms. Castle and Mr. Costa to tell me when it's appropriate for discussion. If it is next week, it'll be part of that agenda next week then. But that's where this will be taken up, only the website, not trying to preempt other issues about community engagement. But the website as such is in governance. We'll talk about it there. So if there are ideas,
Okay.
that's where.
Thanks, Ms. Gippen, for the clarity. Yes, seconds.
You don't mind, I wanted to, as we're talking about, just so you're aware, the city does have a website with all your information there. I don't know if you're aware that you are there. And to just be mindful that this board is subject to all public record requirements. So anything that is out there, and that even means the social media page, any kind of conversations you're having with the public, any kind of information you're putting out, is subject to the public record laws and has to be reviewed and vetted out through the law department. So just please keep that in mind if you're trying to do something in excess of what's in place and what's already there.
Mr. Chairman?
Yami, sorry.
Again, this is maybe a further conversation we need to have. It is not my understanding that anything that this board decides to put out to the public needs to be vetted by the law department. I do not think that is a fair reading of the charter. But that's for more conversation if we need to have it.
I was just going to say, the webpage that we already have through the city of Akron, I don't see why that, at least initially, why we're still trying to get up and running. I think it takes it's probably going to take us a good 2 years to really get solid in what we're doing. And I don't see the point in spending money on something that, we already have, that we can have updated through the city on the webpage we already have.
So I think the benefit of having our own independent webpage is that we would have more autonomy to update it more frequently. So right now, we are relying on the communications team here at the city, who has been wonderful and very helpful, but at this time, as a board, we have to put that request through them. So if we have something that needs to go up like right this second, if it's after hours or anything like that, we are unable to make any changes to that without going through that process through the city.
And the other issue that we found early on was that persons just couldn't find the web page, and they had difficulty locating. I know we had feedback from quite a few people about that, so.
And Ms. Doty?
Yes, so the city is in the process of updating and going to a new platform, and I just got trained in how to update it. Every department has whoever they want to update it. You won't have to go through the IT department anymore. It seems very simple, it's very intuitive, and it is ADA compliant. To do a lot of things to make it more visible to the public.
So Ms. Doty, is it fair to say this could be on the orientation of our admin?
It could be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, let's try and be try and be frugal instead of, thinking about always spending money on other people and other things.
Do we have a launch date for that website? I think I've heard of it since we started this, that it was right around the corner. November 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else, Ms. Castle? All right. Nope. Thank you so much. And so we're going to move into old business, the NACO conference.
I brought that up. Okay, can we get a commitment for a second person to go along with Mr. Gippen to this NACO conference? I mean, if we can't, we can't, but I think, it would be prudent for more than one person to go. That way, more than one person can bring back their perspective on the conference and the classes. These conferences usually have several different classes that you attend. While Mr. Gippen's attending one class, someone else can be attending another class, and then, you bring back the information. That's how conferences usually go. When you get there, you usually sign up. I don't know if you've already checked it out, but normally for conferences like these, as soon as you get there, you sign up for what classes you want to attend. And you can't be in two places at once, so I just thought it would make sense for one other board member to go. I can't go. And it's next month. Actually, as of Friday, well, wait a minute, no, yeah, it's like next month, so, the
It
12th.
starts on the, I know I'm arriving on the 11th. I think there may be something in the evening of the 11th. It goes to noon on the 16th. There is a lot. I mean, as Donzella said, the class parts, there are multiple simultaneous sections, and I'll have to pick and choose which ones I go and not others.
All right, any takers, board members? Anybody available to go with Mr. Gippen? All righty. Thanks so much for that schedule, and the schedule for bringing it up.
Yes, that's it. Nobody else is gonna go.
Yep.
Mr. Peoples, didn't you express an interest in going? I can't go. I tried to get the time off. Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, I may, if it looks feasible, I may try to start one class and then maybe go to another, just so I'm picking up some gist. I get it. I'm going to try to give as full a
Spread yourself around.
set of feedback as I can. So, yeah, and I also hope to meet folks, and I'll report about that, too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skippon. All righty. Make a motion to go into executive session to talk about some personnel. Do I get a second?
Second,
Anaskevich?
yes.
Gippon? Lewis?
Yes.
Peoples? Costa? Castle?
Yes.
Richards?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Boyd, yes. We're going to move into executive session.
Mr. Chairman, am I understanding that we will not be taking up any other business afterwards, so that the folks know?
Yes, yeah. Once we get out of it, we're going to move to adjourn. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes, yes, yes, yes.
God bless you.